Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, championing the unsung heroes of business, accountants.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is Ben Parker. Ben is the Director of Strategic Alliances at Emburse. Ben leads the strategic direction of all referrals and bookings growth for ERP and VAR Partners. He has more than 20 years of experience in ERP, risk management, and spend management technology industries. Ben joined Emburse in 2013 and led the business development efforts for travel before becoming an ERP Strategic Alliance Manager in 2020. Prior to Emburse, Ben worked in the government sectors for Tyler Technologies, and prior to that, he was focused on risk management efforts at Pulte Homes in Scottsdale, Arizona. Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, Ben Parker.
Thank you very much, Ed. Thank you for your time. Glad to be here.
Well, first off, Ben, why do you do what you do?
Well, that's a great question. You know, the partnerships to me have always been intriguing because it's part sales, it's part marketing, and 1000% business. You know, you get to dabble in everything, and you don't have to be an expert in any of them, but you have to be able to navigate those waters. So it's been a really fun journey, and actually a lot of fun to learn new aspects of people's businesses and how through partnerships we can grow our business.
Well, talk to me a little bit about that. How has expense management really evolved over the last few years?
That's a great question. So when I started, there was one big player out in the space, SAP Concur, and they had everybody convinced that travel and expense went hand in hand. The idea of automating an expense report after you travel, that was the core to our industry. It then kind of morphed over the years into more card spend and payments and expense management, and so we saw a major shift in the industry. And now we've seen it kind of go back, where it's going back to that core of what we do, which is automating an expense report for the end user, making it easy for get those receipts and invoices into the system, and then tying into your Sage platform and making all the finance folks happy.
I did hear some complaints about expense systems over the past couple of years. When all of this transactional stuff was making it actually harder for people to get their jobs done. So talk a little bit about that.
Very true. And actually, when not too long ago, when I was in the implementation side of my career, I used to travel from Sunday through Thursday, 3 days a week, or three weeks out of the month. And the known thing was on Friday, you were to come back, try to make everything right at home with your wife and your kids because you've been traveling for so long. Your other goal was to get that expense report in. And it takes a lot of effort. And, you know, a lot of times where people, you know, we've put automation in, and it almost causes more hurdles. And so our name of the game for us is simplicity, and not just focusing on the person taking a picture of a receipt, trying to eliminate typing in stuff, but also the accounting folks behind the scenes and workflow on approvals and, you know, budget requirements and so on and so forth. So it's constantly evolving. It's not easy, and it's not as easy as everybody thinks.
Talk to me a little bit about the demands of the back office. I mean, I think we all have experience doing our own expense reports, so that we're pretty familiar with what goes on there. But tell me about some of the challenges that you've seen with the back office personnel with regard to approval and what affects them.
Yes. So it's the clogging up of the system. It's the exceptions that are the challenge for the back office, because just like with Sage Transform, you know, you may have a policy in place for that works 300 days out of the year, whether it's a hotel limit of $250, let's say. What the back office doesn't want to do is ever feel the burden that they're slowing business down. So when you're traveling for Sage Transform, good luck finding a hotel room for $250. It's most likely going to be $400. You don't want to not compensate and reimburse that employee for that trip. So you don't want to, and then you also don't want to put in days and days of approvals and, you know, workflows to accommodate for that. So it's finding that balance between having, you know, control over your spend and having insight into that spend, but also allowing business to continue happening at the rapid pace that it needs to.
It's interesting. I've always felt that in a lot of cases, expense management has been designed for the least common denominator. You're not for the majority of people who do things as the best they possibly can. We're trying to find out, you know, who's the problem, and rather than deal with the problem, we look to the software to deal with it for us.
That's so very true, and that comes into play with our auditing functionality. You don't want to spend, hours and hours auditing for the one problem person that's in there that may have an expense that they're fraudulently putting in. Because for the most part, employees are doing what they're told, and staying within policy. And so you have to find, that balance of, checks and balances, I guess a good way to say. Trust but verify.
And Ben, we have an exit question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours and why are they a hero?
Oh, that's a great question. When this question first came up, I was like, gosh, I've got a ton of great answers. But I think the simplest answer is I'd have to say my father. My father was always in sales, and I appreciated that. He was, back in the generation where, boots on the ground, company car, traveling, maintaining, obviously a household and a family. And sales, I think, is such a core piece of a business. And, a lot of our customers are that end user, that person putting in an expense report. So he's my hero. We lost him recently because of Parkinson's after a long battle, but he always was a person that was stay positive. He was always a successful person in sales, mostly because he treated it where relationships are key, and it's not the short-term relationship. It's obviously you want the win, you obviously need to close business, but doing it in such a way with respect and integrity, because you never know when you're going to work for a different company or come across that person that you may have sold to in the past. So I'd say he was my hero.
And lastly, Ben, how can somebody contact you?
The easiest way is ben.parker@emburse.com. And I'd be glad to help you. And if I can't get the answer for you, I know a lot of people that can.
All right. Ben Parker, Director of Strategic Alliances at Emburse, thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
Thank you very much.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.